Hey there, everybody. I'd like to welcome a special guest from Florida, Mr. Julio Anta. All right. So, welcome, Mr. Julio. How are you? How are you doing?
Great. How are you?
Not can't complain. Well, can complain, but I'm not going to complain. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're in Florida, correct?
Miami. Well, I'm in a suburb of Miami, Doral, Florida, which is close to the airport.
Awesome. And how long have you been in that area? Like, how long have you had your studio there?
Okay, I've had my studio in Doral for 23 years now.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that would be what, like 1998?
98.
That's
1998.
that's actually the year I started mine too.
Yeah.
Nice. Um, all right. And so were you always in the same location in Doral,
No,
or
I
like have you?
started at a country club in a pavilion,
Oh
in
wow.
an open pavilion for like 3.5 years. Then I had to move temporarily while the location I'm in was built. Um, I had to knock down a wall and all that because I took two locations, and I was at a warehouse, still all in Doral, for like 9 months, which I call it my labor pains because it was hell to order all the permits. So in this location, it's been around 19 years.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, I've been in three locations, but about 19 years where I'm at now, that's a storefront in a shopping center.
All right. And how's that going for you?
Well, before COVID, great. At one time, a few years back, not 2019 or 2020, a few years back, I had over 300 students, about 300, not really much over, about 300. And I, at one point, I normally average 220, 240, 50 average.
Okay.
Um, right before COVID, we had dropped a little bit. And then with the COVID, we've just dropped incredibly. When we came back, we were locked down for 3 months. Less than 25% of my students came back, and hardly none of my kids, which is my bread and butter. The positive is that my Krav Maga has grown incredibly. I'm still like 50 something, 60% of what I used to be before COVID. At one point, I was way higher, but
Mhm.
that's the positive. The Krav Maga is like growing like never before.
And why do you think that is? Like, what do you think's
Well,
causing it?
I'm here in the United States, and we've had riots, looting since the COVID started. And when the COVID started, when the lockdown, a lot of people started, wanting to do more self defense, and but we couldn't. And gun, purchase like every month since COVID has broken the record. So people, I think, are more now looking into protecting themselves and their families. So what else but Krav Maga? At least to me, what else but
Yeah.
Krav Maga?
Okay. And all right. So, and you yourself, like how old were you when you got started in martial arts?
Okay, I was first. My story goes when I lived in New York for four
Okay.
years, and we've had to move because I was sick. I had allergies and stuff, and we moved to Florida. But when I was in New York, I'm guessing maybe 6, 7 years old. Who knows? I was walking down the street, picked up some picked up some papers that were there. My dad let me look at them, said, "Oh, you can't take that home. Your mom will freak." It was actually a bodybuilding thing. So right at a young age, I wanted to be a bodybuilder and a martial artist. My first martial art experience is ironic. I'm not ironic. It's crazy. I was watching a cartoon. I think it had to be Tom and Jerry. Never seen it again. And the mouse had a cousin that did judo, is what I remember. And I have a terrible memory. And he flipped the mouse, flipped the cat. And I told my dad, I want to do that. And my dad literally,
Nice.
I don't remember if he said it's judo, karate, whatever. At that time, it wasn't well known. And then, you know, with time, the Green Hornet, I would love James Bond, and eventually the Kung Fu movies. But I started literally training at 13 years old in judo. At that time, I wanted to do karate. Why? Because I thought, you're a kid, that breaking a board was like, wow, which I know that breaking a board has nothing to do with self defense. So, but there wasn't any close by. So I started at a judo academy. And from there, I studied different martial arts on and off. I wasn't really I was that, consistent at a young age. Then I started the competitive bodybuilding and I stopped martial arts for a bit. And then finally, eventually, I started taking it serious. And my first black belt or sash was in Hung Gar Kung Fu, which is what I was looking for. I was looking for something that worked in the street. And the Hung Gar Kung Fu, even though it was super complicated, forms with over 300 moves, it was attacking the eyes, groin, knees. And that's the way we sparred with knees and groin with a cup, light contact, and we sparred no striking to the eyes and no full contact. So to me, that was a little bit more realistic. Yet with time, I started looking for. I opened my school, and well, let me go. Actually, this part I wrote because I knew you were going to ask me because I lose track in
No
so many
problem.
things. So what happens is I worked at a prison as an officer for 10
Okay.
years, from 1990 to 2000. And while working in the prison, well, I kind of jumped. While working at the prison, I was doing more traditional. I already had started steady doing, I'm not going to say names to put down other martial arts, but some traditional martial arts, two
Mhm.
different traditional martial arts that I was looking for something. Man, I would see those inmates. They have them here lifting weights, hitting heavy bags and speed bags, arms as big as my legs. And I'm seeing the bag bending and they're hitting a speed bag like a lightweight. And I go, man, if one of those guys hits me, I'm destroyed. So that's when I found the Hung Gar, which I'm not going to get into a long story. I had trained with that instructor when I was a teenager, but he had left back to New York. So anyway, so I didn't start the Israeli martial arts till after, well, became an instructor. I did do them till after I stopped working at the prison. So the way it goes is I was introduced to Krav Maga in 1999 at the NAPMA World Conference. It
Okay.
was Darren Levine, the head of the of his organization, with Boss Rudin, and it blew my mind.
That's old school.
The first thing was the the defense against the gun, and I had no gun defense at all. My system at that time, that was the only system, that I was an instructor in or black belt, and my system had some knife that was, I don't even remember, but it didn't work, and we had no gun. So when I see this, I go, wow. Now there was different reasons I was interested when I went to the NAPMA conference and I heard they were going to be there. Was, well, it sounded like it was real. It was Israeli. Being a Christian, I felt a lot of the other martial arts had too much hidden religion. I go, it's not going to be something that as a Christian I'm going to be against, and as a Christian that's something I want to do. But I had heard, not that I saw. I met this guy one time that that was also in the Marine Corps, and he had gone to Israel, and he was telling me, man, the Israelis are incredible. He goes, the most beautiful women kicking our asses, Marines' asses, because they were doing Krav Maga. So I had that in mind. So I went, and right away I called to become an instructor, and I spoke to them for a while. But what happened was, then NAPMA. I don't know if you know NAPMA. You know what
Oh,
NAPMA?
I remember NAPMA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then NAPMA asked me to become a speaker. And I
Okay.
was their first Spanish speaker, and then I did other stuff in English too. So that broke off that I was actually going to go to California. And they were already talking to ATA about doing some training in Orlando. So it was almost like, do I go right now to California or Orlando? But when they asked me to do that, by the time I was talking to them about it, I started focusing on my presentations. So what happens? When did I start? This was 1999. Not until 2002 that I did my first Israeli art, which was Haganah, Mike Lee Canary's Haganah. And what happened was a mutual friend of ours, John Exum, that passed away. Um, I saw him one day with the Star of David and
Mhm.
something that said Haganah. And he was a good friend of mine. He was one of my mentors in business. And I go, what's that? I've heard of Krav Maga. What's that? And he said, oh, it's an offspring of Krav Maga. And he was very good friends with Mike Lee Canary. So I started taking privates in 2002 with Mike before he even started the instructor certification of Haganah Fight. 2002, I took privates with him and also with Nir McMahon. Nir came to do a 2 or 3 day seminar at Mike's school. So in 2002, I already started getting more involved, but not as an instructor yet. So finally, in 2004, John actually calls me, hey man, you were one of the people that did the most Hagana, and Mike is doing certifications. I was like maybe his second or third instructor certification. You should do it. And I went and got certified in the Hagana fight. And then after that, it actually started dying off. I guess the popularity of the UFC and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the type of people that I would get into my Hagana were now, they were leaving and doing that. So I still kept on practicing it. And in my Kung Fu class, I would still do the gun, all the self-defense, I would incorporate it in it. So then finally, I lost track of Mike. He disappeared. And then I got certified in 2009. Actually, no. In 2009, I trained with Moni Isaac, but not in his Krav Maga. I did, which was hell, his Israeli boot camp that he called Elite Combat Fitness, which was 3 days in hell. I even dehydrated.
3 days in hell.
Yeah.
He should change the name.
How was that?
He should change the name from boot camp to 3 days in hell.
Yeah. I told him it was the hardest thing that I had done outside of Marine Corps boot camp. Wow. It's the hardest thing. And it was all fitness stuff. Total fitness, kettlebells, medicine balls, all types of crazy stuff. So from there, that's where I met Steve Letford. That was the instructor we had that day mostly. And he started what he called Core Krav Maga, which was an offspring of Moni's. And I got certified with him in 2012. And in 2012, I also got certified in a system called Krav Maga Martial Arts. But then with the organization I'm in now, which the reason I like them is because they have so much things more. It isn't just one course, and I've gotten a lot of certifications with them, and I continue to grow because I believe being a student for life. And that I learned from Mike Lee Canary, that he would always say, you never stop learning and always work on your weakness. And I'm still working on my weaknesses, in the martial arts. So 2014, I went with the Krav Maga Association by Marty Kale, that they're in Arkansas. And I actually went straight to level 2 because they knew of my background. Eventually, I became a full instructor, and eventually I got what they call expert instructor with them. But also with them, I'm certified in Israeli law enforcement defensive tactics, like that for the police, handcuffing and all that, the way they do it in Israel. And I'm certified in their active shooter course, and also in the Israeli combat shooting, which that's something that's really helped recently with the COVID thing, that the numbers are down. I've been doing Israeli combat shooting. Like I do one, like every other month or every 3 months, I do one, go to the range and we do the Israeli combat shooting. And there's still other things that I want to get certified with them and learn. So that's pretty much my background in Krav Maga, since, like I said, started in 1999, took classes 2002 and got certified in the first one in 2004.
Nice. So what's your favorite part of Krav Maga? Like, is it doing like the self-defenses? Is it the hand-to-hand combatives? The shooting? Like what's your favorite part?
Well, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't have a favorite part. I think it's all, the way I see Krav Maga is the quickest way to self-defense, that it's easy. So let's talk about gun, knife, rifle. Well, gun, knife, rifle to my chest is the same entrance, which doesn't have you, oh my God, what do I do? I know gun, knife, rifle, I'm going to go here. And then, yeah, sure. Afterwards it changes. I grab the wrist for the knife. I grab the barrel for the gun and the rifle. But I love knife fighting too. Technically knife fighting, because I've done Israeli knife fighting, and I'm also Taekwondo instructor. I'm not a Filipino martial arts instructor, and my knife fighting is not even close to a Filipino guy. But I really enjoy knife fighting and defense against knives, knife against knife, and totally knife fighting too, which we do. Because all I'm saying is not me. It's Krav Maga. What I'm going to say. A lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, it's your philosophy." No, it's Krav Maga. If you don't know how to shoot a gun, it's going to be hard to defend against a gun. You don't know how to shoot a rifle, and in particular a knife. So the only thing we could do in the classroom is learn how to fight with a knife to be able. And again, we know, give a God forbid, give an 11 or 12-year-old a knife. The odds are he's going to stab me whether I take it from him or not. It's not that magic that some people put, So knife against knife, I have a better chance. But still, I would say I love everything about Krav Maga. Here's the thing that I say, right? And this is an impossible thing. I love martial arts, and I'm certified in a lot of different martial arts, some black belt and some instructor. And I continue to learn. And I go, if right now somebody told me, we're going to go to your brain and pull out everything you know, but leave one, I go Krav Maga. Because that's the one. It's not the deepest thing, but it's the easiest and the one that's going to make me survive a street encounter, whether it's a mob attack, whether it's, in a shootout, whether it's just somebody trying to kick my ass. Krav Maga gives me the best chance to survive, I believe. That's my belief.
And so, I've seen like your stuff on Instagram and on and some of your stuff on Rumble, right? So you post actually a lot of stuff to do with shooting and everything like that. Do you find that skill, like the shooting skill, is more necessary now than it was, let's say, a couple of years ago? Like, has the climate changed?
Yeah. There's been, I'm also, to become an Israeli combat shooting with the Krav Maga Association, you have to be NRA. They want you to be NRA, so people don't talk, because NRAs were really here in the U.S. There's NRA and another organization, I forgot the name, that the ones that, that pretty much not regulate, but as an NRA instructor, I can certify someone to get their concealed weapon. Here in Florida in particular, if you don't have a criminal record, you can carry concealed, but you have to take a course. And the only people that can give the course in Florida that I know of is NRA instructors and police officers. So that's why we have that. But yes, between the NRA and different things, we keep on getting, and you don't hear this in the news. You only hear about, the thug that comes and shoots someone, or the thug that the terrorist that shoots someone. But there's daily here in the U.S., there are people saving lives with a gun. The most recent one we're starting to have here in the U.S., attack on Jews. And here, I'm talking about a few miles from me, in Miami. It's called Bal Harbor, one of the most elite, expensive neighborhoods in the state of Florida. Bal Harbor, right? Even their shops are super expensive. They were tourists. I think New Jersey, I could be wrong. You might have heard of it. They were walking from the synagogue, and they started getting, literally, they were going to get attacked by a mob of people supporting Palestine. I don't know if they were Palestinian, cursing at them, saying, they even said they were going to rape the daughter and the wife. And a good Samaritan with a gun came, pulled out the gun, and they took off. So who knows? They might have beat them, raped them, whatever. They didn't even shoot. The cowards took off, because that's what you are, a coward. You're going to go harassing people. I don't care whether I agree with your religious, political beliefs. I respect you. And if I see someone attacking someone, whether it's a political or religious belief that I don't believe in, I'm going to go and help them out. So to me, you're a coward if you do something like that. But yeah, guns constantly. They were rioting in coming to neighborhoods and rioting, and recently also in Miami Beach, which is very close. They have the holidays, and mobs of people come in, and there's shootings, there are illegal guns being confiscated, there's fighting. It's crazy. So the governor we have now put a law. He's put a lot of good laws. One of them is, I think not every state has it. He was the first one. Other states here, they're rioting and you can't do nothing. They've stopped traffic. I mean, you might have somebody that needs to go to a hospital and you're stuck there. If you defend yourself, you could do time or run them over. Well, our governor just put a law that if you feel in danger, that they're attacking you in your car, you do whatever it takes to survive. And there's no more There's no more stopping traffic. If a group of people decide they want to stop traffic to protest, the cops will arrest them. So right now, in particular in the state of Florida, we have so much rights to protect ourselves. And we also have here they call it the castle doctrine. Somebody breaks in my house, whether they're armed or not, I could shoot them. What I can't do is if they're running away, shoot them in the back. So state of Florida, every state here in the US, I don't know how Canada is different. Some states you have more rights, like New York City, no one can have a gun. To get a concealed permit is rare. You got to be security or a jeweler, but a regular person like me, in the state of, not the state, in New York City, you cannot. And in the state of New York is extremely hard. California is the same way. It's different. But yes, I do believe people are arming themselves. First time gun owners, it's record high because of all the violence that we've been having here in the US.
And so how do you address that in your class? Like how does that reality of increase, because more people with guns can mean more accidents, right? Especially if they're not trained well.
Yes, unless, and here that's an incredible question. Yes. And I know 2 people personally that shot themselves, one in the leg, one in the hand. But here's the thing. Here's why I push the Israeli way. And here's why I think my wife was one of those that she got shot with me once in a while, did not want to get her concealed. Finally, I convinced her to do my Israeli tactical. And she felt so safe that she's the one that sells it now to people. Listen, I've never liked guns. I feel so safe. Here's the catch. In Israel, normally in the US and around the world, people carry a round in the chamber. That's where the accidents come. Why? Your round is in the chamber. You pull it out. The 2 people I know, one of them did not train with me. The other one trained with me. He claims that he went to fix his gun because it was concealed up here in the front, and the gun went off. Impossible. I'm not going to say that to the guy because I don't want to feel bad, but he must have stuck his finger in, shot his leg. The other guy, literally, listen to this. He has a company, a warehouse in a bad neighborhood. He hears something. He's cleaning his gun there. He stayed late at night at work to clean it. He hears it. He puts the magazine in, chambers it. Again, here's the way most people do it. Israeli chambering is there, and you shoot from there. But we're going to get to that in a second. He chambers it, looks around, sees it's nothing. Takes the magazine out, forgets there's a round in the chamber. He goes to clean the gun, shot it, hole in his hand. So why? Yes, there's a lot of accidents. And I have people telling me, why would you carry not in the chamber? Because I've never pulled out my gun on any human being. I'm 64. I expect to die and never pull it out. It's like an insurance. So I have more of a chance carrying in the chamber to stick my finger in the trigger and shoot myself than not carrying. So in Israel, everybody goes to the military at 18. Women 2 years, men 3. Most of these people have never touched a gun in their life. So, and they carry. I was in the Marine Corps, the reserves, but I was in the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, in the base, you don't carry. When you go to war, you have rounds. We don't have rounds. It's all fake. That's why there's been attacks. In Israel, everybody carries. What I always say, most beautiful women in bikinis with a rifle hanging in the beach, but they don't carry in the chamber because of safety. So if you don't carry in the chamber, and here's my other thing, being a Krav Maga instructor, God forbid. And we have techniques if they try to take my gun, if I have my gun out and they come from the side, all those techniques. Yet, God forbid, somebody takes my gun, I don't know, punches me, pulls it, and I'm not knocked out, I'm going to go straight at him and attack him. I don't have to worry because when he pulls the trigger, nothing's going to come out because I don't carry in the chamber. And literally, the Israeli way is here is I'm pulling, I go like that and start shooting, as opposed to the way around the world, you go boom, boom. So it's a technique to we call it charge it and start shooting. So yes, what you said was great. Yet there's a lot of accidents. Yet if you don't carry in the chamber, you can pull the trigger all you want and nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. So do you address that issue with
all
your
the
students?
time.
Because like I know when I'm teaching any sort of gun defense, I I teach the students, don't, if you manage to get the other person's gun, don't fire it, because you don't know whether it's clean. You don't know, like, you
Right,
don't know anything about the weapon,
right,
right? So you could end up hurting yourself,
right.
right? Now, hit them with the gun, sure, right?
Exactly,
In and bang and hit them with the gun.
exactly.
But, um, like, so it seems like you address both sides
Yes, both
in your
sides.
class.
I tell them all the time. All my students have. I have students that never shot. I have other ones that have taken my course. I have other ones that have shot but don't do the Israeli way. I have them all. I explain to them, and I do what you said exactly. The only difference is I do teach them. We have usually rubber guns, but I also then we use airsoft with nothing in it, so they can chamber it. So what I teach, even with a rubber gun, let's say my cell was the rubber gun, I teach after you disarm, you tap and you rack. Get on the ground, don't move, and verbalize so you don't hold your breath. And then we pass around because we don't have that many. You want one that you can actually chamber so they start feeling it. But still, what you're saying is what I tell them. If you haven't shot a gun and he comes at you, hit him with the gun. Yeah, I talk about both things. And then again, there's another problem, liability. I took the
Yeah.
gun from the guy. There's no witnesses. I shot the guy after I took it. Guess what? I'm not a lawyer. And personally, I cannot, as an NRA instructor, which I give classes for conceal, I cannot give you advice on the law. Can't.
Yeah.
Yet, what do I think? Not being a lawyer, I shoot that guy. I think if I already took his gun, why did I shoot him? I might do time. And if
Yeah.
he's dead, maybe manslaughter. So there's a lot of different things. And like I tell people, it's not that easy. You're gonna go to you shoot anybody, whether it's self-defense. And by the way, the other thing that I say, man, I'm not a killer. I was in the Marine Corps. I never went to war, and I'm happy. If I happen to kill someone, whether a gun, knife, stick, my hands, I'm gonna need psychological treatment because I'm not a killer. I took someone's life. I only think God should take someone's life unless it's my life or an innocent person.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to the, like, what you were saying, that you could be liable,
Right.
right? That is definitely a consideration here in
Yeah.
North America, and in Europe as well,
Yeah.
right? Now, I know that there are areas of the world where you wouldn't even hesitate and you'd be fine to do
Yeah.
that, but here it's not. So oftentimes I talk to people from, all around the world, and it's interesting that it's almost like Krav Maga is different in different parts of the world, because it has to be,
Yes.
right? So we know that we have a liability issue here
Right.
that we need to look at and incorporate it as part of our training in North America, where certain parts of Africa, maybe not,
Right.
right? Certain parts of the world, they don't have that same liability issue. Someone attacks you, you can kill them,
And some you have
right?
more liability. I had a student many years ago from Germany, and he told me that they can, okay, because I've done different. One of the reasons I like the Krav Maga Association and the Haganah, because it's more military. It's
Right.
more, you know, hurt them, do this. But again, I also teach. I joke. I go, man, you have a drunk, you have a family member, you need to restrain. You don't want to just beat them. We have control and restraint. But in general, I also teach to hurt them bad. Yet this guy told me that in Germany they have to modify the Krav Maga. They can't do is what he told me. When he saw some of the stuff we did, he says, "Oh, we couldn't do that." He was a student, but he goes, "We couldn't do that, and they couldn't teach that in Germany." This was a long time ago. I don't know if it's still like that,
Mhm.
but yeah, some people have more liabilities than us. And again, in the U.S. is state
Yeah.
before. Okay, when I worked at the prison, I remember I actually studied martial arts with the guy that was in charge of the defensive tactics. And if a police officer, correction officer did something, he was the one that had to go and explain what was taught in defensive tactics. He's the one that told me, I didn't know that. That at that time, if somebody broke in my house, I had to go out the back door. which doesn't make sense to me. He told me unless you have a child to protect. So that law was changed. I don't know. I left the prison in 2000. It was already changed before I left. This was in the early 90s. It was changed with what we have now, that it's called the castle doctrine, that I can protect myself in my house. So every state is different.
Yeah.
There's states where you can't. I'm sure there's states where you can't, protect yourself shooting someone if they break in your house.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that definitely needs to be addressed, and even almost down to a city by city scenario, because what is acceptable in one area is completely unacceptable in another.
Exactly.
And I think we're doing a disservice to our students if we're not teaching them that, or at least to have that as part of the training.
Right.
Like we learn like a whole bunch of cool things, but some of the stuff just isn't as important to teach. I don't know about where you are, but what was I talking to somebody else about carjackings, right? And there's certain areas where carjackings happen like every day, every other day, right? Here, I've had one carjacking in my entire life, right? So if carjackings are happening every day, then I think that's something more important to train your students on. Right. If they never happen, then why would that be a huge part of the curriculum?
Right. I teach it. I don't test them on that. Well, I follow the KMA, the Krav Maga Association's curriculum. Don't get me wrong. And Marty Kale, the head, knows there's things that I've added from the other systems I've done of other groups of Krav Maga and Haganah. And he knows, like, I usually punch the throat and the neck instead of the face, which from Haganah, that's a big thing. But I test pretty much on what they want me to test. But I do teach carjacking. And I do teach it. It's not in the curriculum, but I usually teach it when it's not a big class. It's like one day I'll see, well, there's not, because we have to go to the cars. Sometimes I'll tell people, like, drive your car to the back. But we don't want to do it in the front of my storefront. Even with orange guns, people might freak out, And let's go to the back. And, and then we work it. But like I said, I do teach it. It's not tested in the curriculum. Like I teach active shooter defense, and it's not in the curriculum. Under the KMA, I have 8 levels. And then there at the level 8, they can test for instructor if they want, which I have right now. I've made 2 instructors. One stopped training with me. I have one under me now. That's an instructor that I'm the one that tested them, but since I have the level that I have with them, I can give instructor certifications.
Nice. Cool. And like, are there other Krav Maga studios close to you or in and around you? Like, what's the prevalence of it in your area or in Florida? Like, I know a few studios in Florida. Like where I am, like we're a city of like our Tri-City area is well over 500,000 people, and there's 2 studios, right? So what's the situation like where you are?
There's not that many. I would say within 5 miles there might be one small. Within 10 miles 2, then maybe 20, 30 miles there might be a few more. But no, there isn't. There isn't. I get people from not even that close to me, because there isn't that many. Then I have one of my training partners that unfortunately had to close due to COVID, that he was teaching maybe 3.5 miles from me, but now he's teaching just a small amount of people from his house. So really, compared to other styles, like any other style, there's a lot less Krav Maga right now in you could say, I live in Miami-Dade County.
Okay. Yeah, so which is kind of sad, because it's probably the one martial art that's really going to help you defend yourself across a broad spectrum.
Exactly. It's like I tell people, I go, You know, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy will take me to the ground and destroy me. I have a blue belt in it. Yet, how many years is it going to take to do that? Krav Maga, within a few weeks, you're already learning. You're already, and it's the difference is they're into submission, not hurting, submission more. We're into more beating and taking off fast, you know,
Yeah.
which the average person doesn't want to spend years and wants things simplified. Again, not to put them down. I put them up. I
No,
said,
no.
they'll kick my ass. You know,
Yeah.
they'll take me to the ground. But we're looking at the average person wanting to defend themselves and learn something quick.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that goes back to the difference between the martial art and the styles like Krav Maga, where we don't fight, right?
Right.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they fight, right? MMA, they fight. Kickboxing, they fight.
Right.
We don't fight, right? We just
Right.
do
Right.
what we can and get out.
Yeah.
So even though a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy might take you to the ground, you're not going to fight his fight on the ground.
Right. Right.
Right? Like it would be like the second I'm hitting the ground, he's getting a hammer fist to the face,
Yeah.
right? And that's not a reality that they've trained for,
Right.
and it would probably be outside, right?
Right.
And
And
they
then you
haven't
have
trained
local
on concrete.
weapons. The guy
Yeah.
can, I mean, I've heard stories of high level MMA fighters getting stabbed when they took someone down. Well,
Yeah.
my saying, I took that from Mike Kanarick, be the last person standing when reality strikes. So the fight is not over till that person is incapacitated and I'm standing. I don't want to go to the ground, but we do have just about everything in Krav Maga for the ground, but dirty.
Yep.
In a dirty way, not in a, which we can't do full contact because it's not a sport. And who would want to be in a sport that you could stick fingers in the eyes, punch the throat, rip testicles, break knees? No, you got to be an idiot to want to compete in something that you're going to end up crippled.
Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't not too much longevity there.
Yeah. Well, the Israelis, I've had them say it. I've heard them say it. Krav Maga is not a martial art. It's a tactical self-defense.
Yeah.
To them, even though martial arts means warlike art, but today martial arts has become a sport.
Yeah, yeah, and it's different, and that's the one thing that I don't like is when it's referred to as MMA for the streets,
Yeah.
or when people are like saying, "Oh, how do you use Krav Maga in the ring?" And it's like, well, you don't, and it's not MMA for the streets, right? MMA is a sport. It is an awesome sport.
Right? It's the closest
I
thing, full contact, but it's still not the street. Can't bite,
right.
You can't pick up a rock,
Yeah, and if I couldn't fight in the UFC, right? I couldn't fight an MMA guy. I'd get my ass kicked, right? Not playing by their rules.
Right.
But I'm not. But if I'm going to fight an MMA guy on the street, I'm not fighting by his rules.
No way.
Right? It's just not going to happen. And I think that's the big difference.
Yeah.
Any of the martial arts could be like Krav Maga, just take all the rules out of them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you were going to give, like, just say you met someone, you had maybe a couple hours with them, right? What is like the one thing that you would teach them that could help them not only understand what Krav is, but help them defend themselves right away?
The technique that I tell everybody, and I usually say it in class, and the ones that have been there will just answer. I go, what's the most common attack in the street ever in the world for kids or adults? Sucker punch. It's not a jab, it's not a cross, it's not a hook. Most people fight like this. So I tell them, if you learned to defend against a sucker punch and to understand when it's coming, we call it a sucker punch because you feel, how can you not stop this? You feel like a sucker, but you get hit. And that's one thing that I learned at the prison as an officer. My wife always says, you always talk about your time in the prison and people think,
you were in prison.
That's the way you think. But at the prison, police officers stop fights. We don't. I did stop one as a rookie because I knew both of the guys, which was stupid because, you never know what could have happened. It could have been a setup. We're not allowed to stop fights because it could be a setup. So we literally, I think I only called it once in my life. I would see a fight. And I go, inmate, stop fighting. Inmate, stop fighting. They stop fighting. I would give them a lecture. It's over. If they didn't, I would call it in. And then everybody comes in. We still don't stop it. And when they're both already beat up and tired, boom, we handcuff them and take them. So what is the positive about being a correction officer? You got to witness fights. Every fight had a sucker punch. Okay, there's different ways. Could have been a push followed by a sucker punch. It could be, most people is this, doing this and the other one going back. Or it could be sucker punch takedown, not an MMA takedown, just a regular takedown. So that's what I tell people. Well, the only clean fight is the one you lose. And if you learn to defend against a sucker punch, your odds of surviving is incredible, because just about every, like the thing that they started, every fight goes to the ground, that was a fallacy, was made up. Do a lot of fights go to the ground? Yes. But 99.9 start standing up, unless I'm laying in bed, and it could happen. I heard stories of somebody breaking in a window and you're laying in bed and grabs you, but that's such a rarity. Or I'm at the beach or at a picnic. The odds are I started standing. Could they take me down? Sure they can. That's why in Krav Maga we have it. But we want to finish it before they take you down. And again, sucker punch is the most common attack. And I tell people, it's not people telling me. I witnessed it. Did every fight go to the ground? No. Maybe I'm making up numbers. I never took, statistics. But I'd say maybe a quarter went to the ground. And usually then, I've heard now, just like when I was a kid, we watched the fake wrestling, WWE, all that. And we used to, me and my friends, never trained in it. We would watch it and wrestle each other. Well, I've heard now, is what I'm talking to law enforcement officers and other people. There are some people that are good at MMA, but thugs. But in general, thugs watch the UFC and they try takedowns and all that. So, there could be more now people trying to take you down. But again, we have stuff for the ground. We have just about any scenario you can think of on the ground. We have something to counter it with. But yeah, if they ask me, and I say it in class, and I teach that, I'm not going to say at least once a week, but there's times where I teach it 3 days in a row. Defense against the sucker punch. And I go, this is the most important one. And I even give them what I've learned in the prison. A lot of times they throw it. Why do you feel like a sucker? Because if the guy turns around, you don't think he's going to hit you. But if you see somebody turning around, you better get ready, because this is coming. Because why would someone that's arguing that his heart is up and the tension is going to look back? And in the prison, they would do that. And the other thing, that would be more at the prison, but it could be in the street too. They would start this, or my hand, like making a fist like they're getting mad. And then they look the other way and strike. So those are the little things I try to tell them, And also distance. If you're very close, whoever strikes first is going to hit the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about the awareness, right? So, and
that's another big thing that I teach in Krav Maga, situational awareness. I see a bunch of thugs there. I'm not going to walk, oh man, let me see if they attack me. No, I'm going to go the other way if I can. Awareness, seeing, like when I go, it's, to me, Krav Maga is a lifestyle. I go to a restaurant, my wife already knows. I sit looking at the entrance, she sits the other way. Just in case something happens, I have a better view of it. And we have everything here. Somebody breaks in my house. We have a plan, what she does, what I do. And hers is to get her gun, get in the closet, call 911 and stay there just in case something happens to me. She's in the closet with her gun. So, we have different things. I'm not going to go down looking. I have 2-story house. I'm going to be with my rifle there waiting for them. If they could steal everything they want in there. But as long as they don't pass through, because if they pass through, then they might be trying to come up. But, years back before I did more situational awareness training through Krav Maga and other things, he would tell me, I heard a noise, honey. Let me check. That was the dumbest thing I did, because I could have been ambushed,
Yeah. Yeah, we did the same thing in our house. We went through and discussed, where our sight lines, like where they are, and where we can hide and still see the other person, where to stand if they're coming up the stairs, right? So my house is pretty good for just the way everything's positioned. If someone enters, they've got a lot of obstacles to get up, and we've got a lot of hiding places where we can ambush them before they even know we're there.
Right.
So, but like you said, that doesn't happen unless you've consciously gone through and analyzed it. And I do think that a lot of people walk around unconscious. They're not looking when they go into a place. Right. And almost every day in every class that I do with the kids is like, we go over, what's the first thing you look for when you get into a new environment, right? Where are the exits, right? What's the second thing you look for? Possible hiding places or barriers for protection. And what's the third thing you look for? Improvised weapons, right? And the kids have got it down like that, and I know that just having that drilled, and if they're practicing, like just looking, they're automatically going to be safe. They're going to see something coming from a mile away.
Yeah, we have a plan for everything. Even we had a fake active shooter. Not that I did it. I didn't think it was real, but my heart started going a little bit in a theater that everybody thought it was a shooting. And man, let me tell you, I learned so much from that, and we already had a plan, but not a plan if we had to exit the theater. Our plan was if somebody starts shooting, my wife drops, I get on top of her. I'm carrying, I wait till he's reloading to shoot. Well, we had never talked if we had to leave the theater. So what happened was she told me she was about to drop on the ground. And eventually I didn't even want to leave the theater because I didn't think it didn't sound to me like gunshots. But when I saw everybody else leave, I told her, you know what? Let's go. I go, what if we're the only, there was maybe two other couples that were just sitting there watching the movie. I go, what if we're the only two idiots here and it's real? And like I said, I didn't go through a full adrenaline response that I would have if it's a real gun, my heart, everything. I went a little bit, but I could tell she went through more because she's usually a better runner than me, and she was huffing and puffing at the end, And it was a big lesson. The other lesson in that was that in my head, first of all, the active shooter will have a better chance than me. I'm carrying a small handgun. He's going to be carrying a rifle with more rounds and more accuracy. But my technique would be if somebody points something at me, is drop to my knee to shoot. And I had never told her that's my technique. She would have been standing. So we learned from that too, that I go, my God, I didn't tell you this. So you learn through things. Thank God it wasn't real,
Yeah, thank God. Because it's not something that you encounter every day, right? So, that would make it more difficult for sure. But it's a good feedback, right?
Right.
So it's like, okay, what if it was real? Now you can adjust, and if it ever does happen, hopefully not, knock on wood, right? That you're more prepared.
Exactly.
Right? And that's all we can do is just prepare. Yeah. Because nothing's going to go the way you want, right?
And when I teach it, I even tell people, I go, in my school, it's a storefront. I go, right, somebody walks in, starts shooting, we're all dead. There's nothing we can do because we're right here, and he's going to walk in,
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. All right, I've enjoyed talking to you. I'd actually like to do it again.
Yeah. Great.
Now, I know if I'm ever in Florida, I'm going to come check you guys out.
For sure, man. You have to.
Yeah, I haven't been to Florida in like 2 years. Definitely not last year
or
this year.
To where?
I was in Orlando.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll definitely come down and check you out. I'd like to learn some of that Israeli shooting. That'd be awesome. If anyone else wants to come and train with you, can you kind of give us more of an exact location on where you are?
Yes, I'm in Doral. It's 10721 Northwest 58th Street, Doral, Florida. Mm-hmm. And our number is 305-599-3649. 305-599-3649. But it's better to go to my website. Doral, Doral, like my city, Doral, KravMaga.com.
And then if people want to get in contact you, and hopefully if they wanted, because you said you certify both, or you're an instructor for both the NRA and for the
Israeli tactical.
Israeli tactical and stuff like that. So I think that's a cool experience, and hopefully we'll see you in our Krav Life community, right? So we've got
Awesome, yeah.
we've got like our Facebook is almost up to 5,000 members.
Yeah.
We've got a community that has an app and everything like that. I'll get you that information because we've got a few instructors that are in the community, and it's just a network of people sharing.
Awesome.
And I think they would definitely benefit from some of your expertise as well.
Great, thank you.
All right. So thank you very much for coming on, and you have yourself a good day, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's a long weekend.